You've got the rule set. You've got the passion for that role-playing game, that system. It's right there in front of you. And in this vlog, I want to build the checklist. I want us to build the checklist together to ask the questions, what exactly does a GM, a game master, do? And what is their role in facilitating not only the game, the narrative, but also the adventure, that scenario that you're going to be running with your play group? Now, the players in a group, they have the responsibility for their characters, for their avatar on the table, what actions they want to take, how they want to use their abilities, and also working together as a team with the other players to conquer the adventure, to build out the story, to discover that narrative. So there's a solo aspect, playing your character, and there's a collaborative aspect, playing with literally the other players. On the opposite side, the GM, they have the responsibility. You have the responsibility for multiple aspects of the game. And admittedly, it can be a little bit overwhelming. There's a lot of things that you're dealing with at once. And I find by building this checklist and breaking it down, it makes it more manageable. And I also want to share with you the number one most important rule that dictates everything as a GM. And that rule is, no matter what happens in the adventure, you can never make a mistake. As soon as you free yourself, you can never mess things up. You can never do something wrong in the adventure. You might forget a rule. You might misinterpret a rule. There might be a piece of the story that you leave out. But as the GM, you are the final ultimate narrative. You are the final ultimate rules in the adventure. So separate yourself from that anxiety of having to get it perfect, having to get it right. What if you make a mistake? You can't. You can dictate things as they move forward. So the first piece is you are there to interpret and enforce the rules. Every role-playing system is a simulation. There's rules. You can choose how you want to utilize them. A lot of GMs will use what's called RAW, R-A-W, rules as written. There's also rules as intended, and of course, homebrew rules. You could be playing a system and decide with your players you think this rule should be better. So every time you meet as a group, this is how you're going to enforce the rules. The rules are there not to beat down the players or win. They're there to pull. They're there to push. They're there to propel the story, that narrative forward. So how can you utilize them? The second aspect is telling the story itself, describing what the players see, interacting with the various encounters, whether they're monsters or robots, androids, aliens, whatever that narrative is going to be, having that back and forth. What do your characters want to do? Making skill checks, resolving the rules, advancing the story. So as a GM, you should always be looking, as you communicate to your players, it's not so much what they can or can't do, it's also describing in the moment the possibilities of what they see, of what they're aware of, and then they respond with the actions they want to take. So you're part storyteller. And then the final piece, that third pillar, is being able to engage all the players. And this is an important point because every player has a vision and a voice and has a say at the table. Some players are a little bit more in character, maybe a little bit louder. Other characters and players are a little bit more reserved. Some people like to talk a lot. Some people like to talk a little. So having the ability, and everything in between, having the ability to read the table and make sure that everyone's vision and voice is heard. Everyone has a say with the actions they want to take. And the way you do this sometimes is by posing questions to the group, but also if you see someone isn't getting to collaborate or they're being pushed out a little bit, to directly ask them. As the GM, as the game master, you are the vision and the voice. Directly asking them, hey, what action would you like to take? Or what would your character like to do? So having a little bit of table presence and a little bit of table management is important. So these are the three fundamental skills of a GM, of a game master. And being able to look out, juggle them, facilitate them, build them. But ultimately, yes, it is a little bit overwhelming, But remember, you can never make a mistake. You know what the adventure is. You've got the notes, you've got the stories, you've got the maps. Adapt, flow, and free yourself to allow yourself to have a good time running the adventure, telling the story, playing the adventure.